Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Skip Rutherford. I'm Dean of the Clinton School, and welcome today. We appreciate everybody being here. This is a very exciting day. And for those that don't know much about the Clinton School, we are the nation's first to offer a Master's in Public Service degree. And part of that program is a significant engagement in field service and in public service activities all over Arkansas, the country, and the world. And that's why I'm very proud today of our graduates who have taken the concept of the Clinton School, which is academics for the real world, which is leadership through civic engagement, and they have expanded it to the high school level and are coming forth with a concept and a plan that is the first of its kind in the state and very possibly the first of its kind in the country. And it's a real rewarding experience for me as a dean to see people that came here to this school and learned, taking their talents and their abilities and taking public service and social entrepreneurship to a new level. And at the high school level, this has the potential to create a whole new generation of public service entrepreneurs, and obviously along the way can really help change the world. So I really am proud of all the Clinton School alumni who have been involved in the planning, the development, the execution, the teaching, and the coordination of this institute. And we're also very proud to partner with the Walton College of Business at the University of Arkansas. We have a concurrent degree program with the Walton College. You can get a Master's in Public Service and a Master's in Business Administration. But now we're also working on this program with them, which of course adds a new dimension and an important dimension. Noble Impacts Institute, these high school students, welcome members of your family, began yesterday, and it was an exciting day. I had the opportunity to watch, again with a great deal of pride, watching your former students take on the role of professor and administrator, and it was fun. But it was also fun and exciting to see the high school students from 7 Arkansas high schools in this first program of its kind, and how quickly they bonded, how quickly they came together, how quickly they grasped the concept of public service entrepreneurship. So I applaud you students and thank you for participating. And as I said, I think the potential of this has the opportunity to inspire a whole new generation of entrepreneurs. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurs, there really is one in the room, and it is not me. The entrepreneur in the room is the founder of this concept, the person who came and discussed this with me and others several months ago. Steve Clark is a 1999 graduate of the University of Arkansas. He has been responsible for starting, building, growing, and developing companies. He is a job creator. He is an entrepreneur. But along the way, he never lost his value system, and he always thought public service was a high priority. He thought it was noble. I couldn't agree with him more. And he has led, with his support, the creation of Noble Impact. And what that can do is that it can incorporate in years to come a high school curriculum of public service and entrepreneurship that could spread all over the country. So students, you like the first year and the second year students at the Clinton School, you are the pioneers in this effort, and we thank you for being part of it. But a very special thanks to Chad Williamson and Trish Flanagan, 2 Clinton School alumni who have really worked hard on this. And please welcome the person who has had this concept in his mind and has been so supportive of our efforts to be part of it. Please welcome from Fayetteville, Steve Clark.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? First, let me thank Dean Rutherford and the great folks here at the Clinton School of Public Service. It's just so fantastic. Let me tell you, it's humbling. You guys know what that word means? Humbling? It makes you feel like maybe you don't belong here among such people, and that's how I feel. So if I could, let's do a couple of things. First off, if you're a student, a scholar, I think we call them noble scholars. If you're a scholar for the next 2 weeks, would you please rise? So folks, and I would like to add, stay standing please. If you're a proud parent or guardian or supporter of these students, would you stand please? Any parents here? All right. All right, if you would, just go ahead and have a seat. So what you're looking at, like so many Arkansans, is the first child on either side of my family to ever go to university. I am literally one generation away from sharecroppers, from dairy farmers to wheat farmers. And because of that, we all have a story. We're all coming from somewhere. And that's where I'm coming from. I can remember my grandmother, before she passed away, telling a story about the Depression and about how there would be men walking the railroad to get to California, and they would come to the back of her house, and all they wanted was to do a day's work for their food. And she never referred to these men as poor. She referred to these men as men who were down on their luck. And so for me, the charity and the sense of charity and responsibility that we have one to another has always been a very critical part of my life. It continues so today. This state, this public education system, this university system has been very, very good to me. But I'm going to back up about 2 years and tell you that how many have watched Shark Tank on television? All right? Well, it's not a lot like that, right? But it's kind of like that. So I'm involved in what's called a number of incubators around the country where I get to sit and listen to young men and women bring their ideas in front of potential investors. And I remember I was sitting there one day bored out of my mind because I'm sitting here listening to a pitch and all that person wants from me is my money, right? They don't want a relationship with me. If you know anything about business, what's going to happen is I'm going to get diluted in 6 months, which means whatever I gave them is not going to be worth what it was. And I found myself daydreaming, which I do regularly. And I encourage it, by the way. I remember thinking, I'm not so interested in incubating these businesses, but those people up there, I'm interested, if I could be so bold as to say, how do we incubate those kids? How do I take and move everything upstream? You know, I was brought up to say, you went to kindergarten, you went to grade school, you went to high school, you went to college, and then you got your job, right? But see, these kids are different than I was, right? The information, the content that I had to take, 12, 14, 16 years to get is available at their fingertips. And I don't know if you know it or not, these kids are bright, and they're smart, and they're capable. And it's an untapped, almost unlimited resource. So my thought was, what if we just move everything upstream? What if I just presume that these kids can do way more than they're being asked to do, or even being challenged to do? So Chad Williamson, who you'll meet in just a minute, he and I had met through another relationship, and I was having this ongoing conversation with him. And at the same time, I had a conversation with my son, who's 18 now. This is about a year and a half ago. And my son is a great kid. I know he's a bright kid, but he struggles with if it doesn't make sense, then what's the point of doing it? How many of you are like that? If you can't see the purpose, then what's the reason, right? I'm that way. So one day I'm lecturing him like a good dad, and I'm saying, son, this is really, really important. You've got to make the grade. You should be having an A. If you don't have an A, you have a C, and you're killing me, right? So what are we going to do, right? What are we going to do? And he said, after a minute, he said, you know what, Dad? The way it feels to me is if there's no purpose, there's no reason. I'm going to think about that for a minute. Because as a dad, I wanted to get pretty upset with him and say, get with the program. But as I was doing my daily run, I'm thinking about what if I just got a glimpse into the inside of a generation that is looking for the reason, looking for the purpose to get out of bed and make a change. And so then I began ideating and talking with Chad and the whole what-if conversation. I loved what, the part of his life that was related to the Clinton School of Public Service. He made some introductions, met with Dean Rutherford, and he was probably more kind than smart by taking my meeting, but he did, and I'll be eternally grateful. And we fast forward, and now not only have we been embraced by the great school here at the Clinton School of Public Service, but also the Walton College up in Fayetteville. And so now what we have are the tenets of my world: entrepreneurialism, business, critical thinking, gut instinct, coupled with now the virtuous aspects of public service. So to me, I said, what if it isn't just about funding a program through charitable donations, but what if we can be smart enough to apply entrepreneurial tenets to a social issue so that they never has to be addressed again, or the charitable donations can now be applied to something else? Because see, two things, people, whether it's in the natural universe or in business, healthy things grow and healthy things are sustainable. So to me, what is that pursuit to sustainability? Well, see, to me, that pursuit is noble. So what I'm endeavoring to do is, over a 2-week period, is plant a seed in the hearts and minds of each of these young people, your children, our fellow citizens. And that is, it's okay to do the right thing. You never need permission to do the right thing. And it's okay to help your neighbor. And you've been given an intelligence for more than just making a paycheck and paying your mortgage. I believe you've been given the intelligence to solve problems, real problems. And this just isn't an old guy talking, kids. I believe that, right? So over the next 2 weeks, in cooperation with the Clinton School of Public Service, in cooperation with Walton College in Fayetteville, in cooperation with a cast of world-class volunteers, we're making an investment into these kids' lives. Where do we go from here? Beyond this, there'll be weekend startup weekends, there'll be speaking series, there'll be content in the form of publication, books, lectures, content that we want desperately to get into our public school system, our charter school system, our private school system. Because see, I believe that every one of us has a unique talent, and every one of us brings a perspective to an issue that's relevant. And so through the Noble School, through the Noble Impact Institute, we endeavor to give them the tools to observe a problem, recognize a problem, fix a problem. And for us, the definition of the solve is the exit. From an entrepreneur's perspective, when we make an investment, we're looking for a specific return. That's why we use the word impact. We believe that our effort should have a very specific impact, and that the solve of a problem is ultimately the exit from that problem. So I would just ask that if you think about it, and if you're someone that prays about it, just remember us over the next 2 weeks. Encourage your young people, because I promise you they're going to get tired before this is over. But a week from Friday will be the final pitch day, where all of these guys and gals have spent the last 2 weeks coming together, and they're going to present a solve to a real problem. And there'll be surprises that occur that day. There'll be surprises that occur between now and then. I can't wait to reveal those for you. But let me just say, from my heart, thank you for giving us this opportunity, Clinton School. Thank you, parents, for allowing your kids to come and be a part of our day. And thank you, kids, for taking a chance on Noble. All right? Thank you very much.
Hello, hello. Thanks, Steve. That was awesome. Dean Rutherford, thanks so much for the opportunity, even to have this group of people here. And I think they know how much we believe in the who first, and it's all about you, but it really isn't. So I would really like to ask my colleagues to come up and join me real quick. My colleagues, like, if you don't know who you are, now we have problems. There's no way you do this alone. And our number one value is that we believe in the power of students. I think, I'm a former high school teacher, came to the Clinton School because I thought that this school provided opportunity. And I hope that that's what we're doing. I hope that that's what we're doing for the students that have believed in us to possibly show them the way, a new avenue for an opportunity. It's not possible, obviously, with colleagues that support each other and have a collective vision, but also people at the schools. So like Liz Lucker and Tracy Mason and Sarah Jones, those people that are connected right to the students, and then leadership like John Bacon to say, you know what, this sounds good, and we would love you to do this, and we want to connect you with our students. So I appreciate all of you for that. I'm not going to be here long. I think that, you know, the number one thing is the students, and the last day and a half has really been eye-opening. The amount of awesome relationships that have already been formed is pretty significant, and I would say sort of immeasurable to this point, but we do have metrics. Where's Elizabeth? Oh, see, she didn't join me either. We just really appreciate the support and the support of the community to see what we can really do. I don't even know what that is yet. That's the cool part about public service, is that there's a, you know, at this school, process and ambiguity are talked about all the time. We are enjoying the process. That process is long right now, and it's great. We are enjoying the ambiguity, and we are enjoying students that are telling us even this morning what public service is and what entrepreneurship is, because everybody would define that differently for themselves, and our job is not here to teach, it's to facilitate. So I really just thank you for your support. I hope to see you all in 2 weeks here on Friday in 2 weeks, and on the 19th, to see these students pitch their projects when they work with these community leaders. You know, I'd love to name all the students name by name, but they know that they're the most important part of this institute. And you know, we can talk about curriculum and implementation all day long, but if y'all don't show up, we don't do anything. And so I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the support. Thanks again to Dean Rutherford and even Alex Thomas and the Clinton School staff that even helped shape this and mold this, and definitely Trish, who we've just had, you know, maybe 1 or 10 arguments about where we should go, because it's not easy. It's just not easy. But the people that are going to guide us are the people in the blue shirts with the N on right now, and I really believe in that. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad, and we are going to have time for a couple questions, and we wouldn't have a public program if we didn't have some sort of dialogue. So is there anything that you guys want to ask? Hold on, Nevi. Here comes some microphones. I'll start one. So Chad, what's a typical day at the Noble Institute?
The typical day as of 48 hours ago. So we start at 9 o'clock, and what we do when the students come in, actually 8:30 to 9 o'clock, students come trickling in. Some students come before 7. No, some students come before 8, which is cool too, because we're there. And we start off with sort of a question of the day or a statement of the day. So take, for instance, today was on one whiteboard, and we're at the River Market campus, so we're right down the street here. So on one whiteboard is entrepreneurship is ... On the other whiteboard is public service is ... And we came up with some really rich examples and meanings of that, and every group really pitched it this morning in a really cool way. So we got some really excellent definitions out of that. And then that goes into another session of startup, which is just an activity that we get the students going, which is part of that pitch that we did this morning. We go into workshops. Our workshops last about 1 hour and 15 minutes long. We took somewhat of a Stanford design thinking approach, but we crafted our own approach, which I'll actually ask Trish to talk about in a second. And then we move right into a reflection period, which that was probably the biggest conversation we had. Was public service is awesome, but without reflection, you're not closing the loop. And we reflect as much as we possibly can in many different ways and many different avenues, whether that be individually, as groups, or as teams, with the entire student body. But I'll let Trish take it from lunch and just our sort of model.
Thanks, Chad. I have nothing prepared, and I'm going to have to move the microphone up, as I always have to do. So I think the biggest thing, I know a lot of times, what we're working with the scholars on is, as business people, as entrepreneurs, as problem solvers, you have to have a tangible story. There has to be a start, a middle, an end, right? Because this is how we learn as we're growing up. And so I wish that I could have more tangible speaking points at this point, but it's everything we're doing is being created as we go, minute by minute. And so I think, to Steve's point, the students, the scholars that are with us, and to Dean Rutherford's point, you guys are as much a part of the creation process as anyone that's been up here. And I think that's what's so cool. From an entrepreneurship perspective, from a public service perspective, it's the process. It's the buy-in that we get from you guys day one in being partners with us. And I think that's really what we're focusing in on is, as a former high school teacher and now an entrepreneur, you got to have people engaged every step of the way. And so we're asking the students, the scholars, to constantly tell us, you're engaging us or you're not. I'm engaged. And Steve and I were talking about this morning, after we asked for feedback from you all, what would you change? And what we're going to challenge you tomorrow, or starting probably Elizabeth at the end of today, is what would you change and how would you solve it? Because we truly do believe, and this isn't just a cute thing that we put on a t-shirt or write up an article about to get published, but we really do believe that it is with you all, it's with the youth that are going to make the difference, that are going to actually do the work that we need to get done. And I was hanging out with some of my girlfriends last weekend, and they said, oh man, are you saving the world again? Are you teaching the kids again? And I said, yeah, I am teaching the kids because they're going to save me. So there's a bit of a selfish motive here I have going on here. And I think that we might all be able to speak to that. And you guys are going to do the same thing. When you become the next generation, you just keep passing it forward. So it's ambiguous, it's messy, it's startup, it's entrepreneurship, it's saving the world.
Bob, right behind you. Right behind you.
Can you talk about where you recruited these students from and where they're staying? And can you also tell me about this whole effort to get this incorporated in school curriculum? Are you talking about core curriculum? How are you going about that?
Trish is a little taller than I am. Yeah, it's a good question. When we first started, Steve's big-time entrepreneur, so he wanted to put that institute into as many places as possible, and we talked about it a lot, like how long was it going to be and how are we going to recruit students, and this whole process started in about February. So starting in February to now, this is sort of what it's become. Our collective goal was, let's see if we can do it in Little Rock and Fort Smith, where Steve is from. Our goal was to have 16 students in each location because that's what the Clinton School Public Service started with their first class. Just thought it was a cool story. But I thought it was enough students because 16 students is a lot of students. And then all of a sudden we had 38. And that's when I thought, uh-oh, we have a lot of students. And so we focused all our efforts on Little Rock. So I sent emails out to every high school in the area, to different people in the area, and got some feedback and some not. And it was a busy time of the year, so I can't hold schools accountable for it because it was almost getting into April-May time frame, and we're talking about the end of the year. And then we had a connection with Miss Lucker, because Spencer Lucker as a Clinton School graduate, so we got to go to the school and talk with them, and they were so excited. Actually, I was shocked. I was like, wow, these women are very excited. We might need to do something really quick. And so all of a sudden, we had a partnership with Hall, and then we had a partnership. I had the opportunity to meet with John Bacon, and we met and talked about how we could have a whole group of 16 students come, and that's what really turned my mind into, and even he said, well, maybe we could make a course out of this. And I thought, maybe we could. And that turned into the fact of, well, how do we create curriculum even around a course year long? So that starts on July 22nd at Eastham with primarily the kids that are involved here. And then the continued reach of, Arkansas Commitment, Jason Hamilton, awesome, Jason Hamilton. And we allowed us to present to the kids at Arkansas Commitment. And so that brought more. How many kids are from Arkansas Commitment? All right, so I think there's about 11 students from Arkansas Commitment. So it was almost sort of a critical mass. If we need 16 students, how do we do it? We send emails out to all the people in the school systems, and then the people that replied, then we really try to cultivate those relationships and go. Do we want to have kids from every school? Most definitely. We have 7 schools represented, which I think is pretty cool. Central, Bryant, North Pulaski, Eastham, Hall, keep coming at me.
Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa and Pine Bluff. So it was very, I guess I would answer that question a little bit more. It was very organic and it was very entrepreneurial type, right? It was startup mode. How do we get this done? And then that's when I asked Trish, I need your help. You know, this is when we got to the point of started adding different team members to really get this done. And Steve said, you can try to do it alone, you are not going to be able to do it alone. And I figured that out quite quickly, and then bringing on great people to help me. And it was just so gratifying, still is gratifying to me, that I can bring on fellow graduates that have the understanding of what I think it is that this school instills, that we hope then instill it into the students. And then bringing Trish along was just a great partnership, because her having the joint MBA, coming from the entrepreneurship side, it just was a perfect fit. I hope that answered your question.
Maybe they stay at their house, their parents' house. It's not a boarding.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not a boarding.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so just to add on to that, our marketing plan, our strategy to get into the schools are wearing blue T-shirts right now.
Yes, sir.
So I'm with the Entrepreneurship Center at the University of Maryland, and I guess I should ask Steve, can we like buy a franchise version of this and take it back to Maryland?
This is, so, Steve, this is, I don't answer those questions. The entrepreneur, I'm public service, I'm over here.
Steve's got it.
You know, that's a great question. But the first question should be, how do I get it for free, right? You know, so just to back up a little bit on that. So it's been my experience, and we don't charge for this. The students are here free of charge, and for a number of reasons. You know, whatever limitations that may bring, we didn't have time to go out and solicit, recruit scholarships, supporters. So, you know, is there a franchise available? No. But if you would like to, you know, literally speak with Trish and this team and begin to counter, because there's different versions of what we're doing. It's not just the full 2-week, which I think is fantastic, but there'll be other sessions that will resemble much more startup weekend style events where, you know, they'll walk in on a Friday at 1 o'clock and leave, you know, on a Sunday at 3, and have just a super intensive process. But to your point, we've already had demand and already have been on behalf of the Clinton School to their facility in Ireland. We already have a great school in Tampa. You have it locally now in Eastham. And so without any publication, for whatever reason, and you can fill in the blank, your own answer, this resonates with people on a level that is different. Because most kids, and I've even heard it here, and most people think there's entrepreneurialism, which is inherently evil, and then there's public service, which is inherently good. You know, but there's an intersection there. I assure you, there's an intersection there that creates a model of sustainability that utilizes the very best tenets of both camps, right? And so I don't, honestly, whether it's me or someone else, I think this was and is an inevitability. There's only so many charitable dollars to go around. Models such as Tom Shoes and others who are philanthropic corporations wouldn't exist if they didn't make money for their shareholders. And so I've overheard someone, I won't point at you, say that business is evil. Well, business isn't evil. People may be, but businesses inherently aren't, because they can't. They're a reflection of the leadership that's inside of that business. So the quicker that we recognize that money, we talked about this, is a tool, just like a hammer in your toolkit. It's a hammer, it's a tool to be used, and when used properly, just like a hammer, it's extremely effective. And so that is what we're trying to resonate within these kids' minds, is that it isn't just enough to dream. You know, we talk about talking about things is not the same as doing things. I mean, we're doers. And so in terms of the franchise model, I'll need for you to sign a non-disclosure and confidentiality agreement because I don't want you stealing the idea. No, we would love to talk with you afterwards. I will tell you this, there are many wonderful conversations going on with both the Clinton School as well as the Walton College in Fayetteville. That will be extremely exciting for when these kids graduate in just a few years. And there's no reason to think that wouldn't be relevant everywhere.
Anyone else? Chad, thanks so much for coming back and doing this. Thank you all for coming out, and then please say hi to some of the Noble Scholars and get to know them, because we know that they'll be making a difference in our community sooner than we think. So thanks again.